On today's episode, I interview Emma Freestone from Wardle Construction based out of Sydney, Australia. Now, Emma and her partner Adam are members of the $1 Million Tradie coaching group, and Emma is a driven and inspiring business owner who has grown significantly over the last couple of years. Now, Emma is an outstanding operator when it comes to the important stuff of building a great team, designing culture, and doing the right things even when it's hard. Now, don't miss this episode if you want to build a team that cares about their work, if you want to have a business with a strong culture and one that enables you to improve your business results. Now, they say success leaves clues, and on today's episode, I interview Emma Freestone from Wardle Construction. Now, welcome, Emma. It's awesome to have you here. I can't wait to chat to you today.
Thank you, Tony. I am really, really excited. A little nervous, but mainly excited. This is something I love to talk about.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some pretty important stuff today around team and culture, and you guys have done an incredible job with this. As we were saying just before we got started, I think this stuff is actually the secret sauce. It's the key to success. So we're going to jump in. I thought just to kick off, it would be nice just to give the listeners just a little bit of context about your business and the journey you've been on, and then we can really dig into that people and culture pieces. Is that okay?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. So can you just tell us about the type of work that you and Adam do and the size of the team, the typical clients, and some background there?
Yeah, so we are a business-to-business company. We build the concrete structures for high-end residential homes here in Sydney, predominantly in the eastern suburbs, the lower North Shore, and the inner west. So in terms of those concrete structures, we do everything from the formwork, the reinforcement, to the concrete place and finish. Our clients are amazing. They are all high-end residential builders that partner with architects and the end client to help them bring their vision to life. In terms of our team size, we now have 5 in the office and 16 on site.
So you do some pretty cool projects, nice homes.
Oh, they're beautiful. They're absolutely divine. I just walked into one of them the other day and it's still being built. Our guys have done such a phenomenal job, and it was down in Bronte, and you can see whales in the ocean from the kitchen.
Yeah. If you don't know Sydney well, these are some lovely spots. So let's talk about, and we won't spend a lot of time on this, but I'd love to talk about what life and business was like when we first started talking.
For sure. I actually thought back to this recently in anticipation of you and I catching up, and tried to take myself back to that time. The first thing that came to me was when we first started talking, probably around, I think it was January 2024, our son, the other director in the business, Adam, our son, Billy, was 15 months old at the time. I worked it out. I saw him from an average of 10 hours a week, Monday to Friday. So, yeah, I saw our son for very, very little time, for 5 days of the week. We were surviving week to week in terms of cash flow, and then, only just making it week to week. And then Bass would come through, the quarterly Bass, and hit us like a ton of bricks. And I'd think, how? Adam and I had always had a rule that we don't discuss work at home. So what was actually happening is we were barely talking at home out of fear of talking about work.
That's right, yeah.
We were doing probably about 2.3 million at the time, and we were barely paying ourselves. We were barely paying ourselves out of the business. So it wasn't horrendous, but it wasn't great either. It wasn't pleasant. It wasn't really enjoyable. Yeah, and it really had an impact on our family life, in particular with our son.
It was a tough gig, and I think you knew you could do a lot more as well.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing for me was not being confident around our numbers. That was the biggest thing for me, is that I was like, we need assistance, and this was perfect.
So how are life and business different now, and what are some of those key changes that you've made along the way that have helped?
So I had a look at this and had to kind of jog my memory, what it looked like and where it is now. So we have had 147% revenue growth. So we will hit the $6 million mark for this financial year. We have 90% of our staff are now direct employees. So we don't have all, ABN subcontractors, which is wonderful. Our net profit went from 3.5% to 10%. And probably the cherry on the sundae for me is now I no longer work Wednesdays. So every single Wednesday I have off with Billy. It's a me and him day.
Yeah, that's magic.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge. It's probably the most exciting thing for me in terms of looking back. What we did, some of the key changes were we did have, when we started, we had a part-time office coordinator or administrator. We now have a full-time office manager. We have an estimator. We have an ops manager. We hire for long-term fit. That's one of the changes that we've made. So we don't hire on a project basis. We hire for people that want to grow their career with our business for the next 5, 7, 10 years. We track our numbers, which again is one of the things that I was really looking for. And we invest in the business in terms of outsource. If we don't have a role internally, we will go out and find partners that we can partner with in terms of resourcing the business. So, we have a return to work coordinator that we partner with around safety. We outsource our IT services. We've got a HR manager. We've got a marketing person. Because I don't know if you've ever been in the position where something's happened on one of the laptops and it says contact your IT administrator. And I was like, oh no, that's me.
That's me.
That's me. Do you know what I mean? So we've prioritized outsourcing things to the experts, which has made a really big difference.
It's pretty cool, right? And it's like you've established a real business now, one that that works without you guys having to do everything. And you should be really proud of what you've done. It's pretty cool.
Thank you.
And I'm so pleased for you that it's had an impact for you, in terms of personal family life too, because that's what it's all about for me anyway. So I think that's a big hats off to you guys. And today, I guess the thing is that's made a huge difference for you is the way that you've gone about the people management, the culture. And so I really want to dig into that. Because I think for those people listening, this is the key to success. This is the secret sauce.
Yeah. So we were kind of talking about how people, sometimes might think that culture is something that you can do in the future or, something that can wait. What I explain to people is the cool thing about culture and improving your culture is it's a triple threat in that not only does it feel good, not only does it make a great place to work for your entire team, but it's also incredibly profitable. You cannot go wrong in prioritizing company culture.
100% true. And a big part of culture, and I know something you're strong on, is living the values that you have, in a business sense. So can you talk to us about values and what they mean? What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So when we talk about values, it's how you behave, how you carry yourself, what is your compass that guides your conscious and subconscious decisions, what you do, how you behave, regardless of whether it's a good circumstance, a bad circumstance, and regardless of if anyone's watching. So it's basically your internal compass that kind of navigates, the way you behave and how you react to things.
And so what are your personal and company values that you live by?
So we have more company values than a typical company. I'm sure we should have consolidated them into 4, but we actually have 9. It's not perfect. Nothing that we do is perfect, by the way, and I'm very, very transparent about that. Everything is a work in progress. But
actually, most businesses are a little bit wet paint, and that's okay.
Perfect. So ours are safety, trust, quality, communication, enjoyment, balance, growth, investment, and reliability. So those are our company ones. And in terms of my personal values, they actually tie in very, very close with the companies, which is fantastic, because what you can happen is your values are ingrained in you, right? They are how you behave every day. So if your values don't align with a company, it's going to be very, very difficult. It's almost going to be abrasive for you to be able to operate within the confines of a company's values if they don't align with your own. So mine are very, very similar to the company's, but I also have values in terms of belonging and gratitude.
I think it's an important point because you want your business to be a great place for you as well as your team. And, for some people, they might be, adventure junkies. And so adventure might be a really important value for them, and that might be a value that they roll into their business. Whereas maybe if you're like me and a bit boring, that may not be the same thing, but it's the congruency is very important, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's actually, and I'll touch on it in terms of some of our recruitment stuff. Regardless of what it is, that's my final question that I ask people in our Culture Fit interview is, what do you like to do for fun? Whether it's family, whether it's hikes, whether it's particular board games, whether it's enduro bikes, whether it's rally driving, playing football on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's so important. It's so important in terms of, like I said, how you live your life, what's important to you, and making the most of it.
Yeah. So the thing about values, Emma, and I'm sure you've had people look at you sideways from time to time, is that they can be seen as being a bit airy-fairy, a little bit woo-woo, Mother Earth even. So how do your values actually play out in the business?
One of the things that I will say is it's, in terms of values, it's about choosing what is the right thing to do, right? So it's not doing something because it feels easy, because it feels comfortable, because it's the fastest way of doing things. I think that when people sometimes do talk about values, having them posted on the wall, it can feel airy-fairy. It can feel like something that companies have to do as opposed to what they use as their comfort and their navigation system. One thing, I was thinking back to an example of where our values have played out, and we haven't got them perfect, right? And that's fine. Very rarely do things go perfectly, but we had an incident a few years ago, actually, where one of our other director actually got into a screaming match with a client at the time on site who we did not have shared values with. We discovered that throughout the project. Now, when our other director came home, because we live in the same house, partners in business and in life, it was just sat so uncomfortably. And we were digging, trying to work out why this felt so awful. And it wasn't about the other person. It was about us not living within our values and not living within the company's values. So hats off. The next day, Adam went on site and said, look, what happened yesterday is not in line with our company culture, our values. I apologize, and it will not happen again. He also wrote the other gentleman an email, expressing the same thing. Now, this client didn't really acknowledge the apology, didn't return an apology or anything like that, but their response didn't matter. Their response was irrelevant. It was about us getting right with our own values and, again, course correcting, because you're not always going to get it right. So that's just an example of how your values help you navigate the way you operate within business.
And this is probably a similar question, but have you got a moment where sticking to your values has actually cost you in the short term, but it's paid off in the long term?
Yes. Yeah. So we have something that we are very protective over, which is a 40-hour working week, which I can discuss a little bit more. We have had instances where we've been invited to tender on projects that would be likely that we would be successful for. The caveat to those projects was that our team would be required to work 6 days a week to get that project over the line. Now, as I said, we're very, very protective over a 40-hour working week. There has been research done around something called Project 5, around the impact on construction workers' mental health and well-being in the construction industry when they're working 6 days a week. So what that meant was, we stepped away from those tenders. We made the decision that they weren't going to be the right fit for us and our team, and that's okay. We also often get asked to quote work on the northern beaches, which is quite far from where we are. Now, when I recruit people for our team, I ideally want people who live within a 50-minute drive in peak hour traffic. So we often have projects come that are quite outside of our area of work. Reason for that being is that we don't choose to tender on those projects, is it would mean 15 hours of travel every week for our guys. And after they've been out in the sun or they've been out in the rain, and it's 15 hours a week that they're not with their families, they're not having that balance, that enjoyment, they're not investing in their own growth. So we choose not to do those projects. Now, the way that the result of that, or how that pays off in the long run, is protecting that culture, acting with integrity, doing what we say we're going to do, and that puts trust in our team that, they are at the center of everything that we do.
So it pays you back through the team, which is amazing. It's so easy to get seduced, as it were, by shiny objects, which will benefit no one in the long run. So I love that. And I do really appreciate the way you focus on team culture. Why is it so important for you?
Our teams, all of us, spend 40 hours a week together, which is more time than they spend with their families, with their partners, with their kids. So it's really important that our team feel safe. They feel like they belong. They feel valued. They feel respected. Now, the result of that, like I touched on, that triple threat, is that they stay within the business. They then refer other A players into the business, and they perform. It's your culture is your consistent personality in the business. Like I said, whether it's things are good, whether things are bad, and your culture, if it's weak or if it's inconsistent, it will break under pressure, which is when it's most needed. It's
a fascinating thing, isn't it? Because as we grow a business, the problem of control is the problem. You get more people, you cannot be everywhere. You just can't clone yourself and keep an eye on everything. Mm-hmm. And so businesses run into that choke point where they no longer can control things, and things start to go wrong from a quality point of view, relationships get damaged, et cetera, et cetera. But culture is, rather than you having rules that people follow, it's almost like they take those values and they put them inside themselves, and it's almost like the internal rules they follow because they want to, because they believe in it. And so that's why it's so much more powerful than, sort of standing there with a stick and telling people what to do, because it's people doing stuff because they want to, because they know that it's good for them and for everyone, and they enjoy it, which is the difference.
Yeah. And look, when you bring people into your team that have shared values to that of the business, it's not difficult because, like I said, when you have those shared values, your internal navigation system is automatically, consistently course correcting to where you want the business to be headed. Because a lot of the time it happens both subconsciously and consciously. If something is bad or negative or feels wrong, and we often do this in business, if something feels off or negative or wrong, we will always come back and go, okay, that's why. It's not aligned with this value, or it's not aligned with that value, or we missed this and we need to create around this because that's one of our values.
It's massive. So what are some of the things that you and Adam have done to build the culture at a practical level that people could put in place?
So some of the things that we do, and I'll touch on it a little bit more, we do anytime we have a new client come to us for a request for quote, Adam meets them for what's called a culture fit meeting. And we are very, very transparent about what that is. before we'll even talk project price, anything like that. It is Adam just going out and meeting with the other director to sit down, talk about our company culture, understand a little bit more about theirs, and see if we're a good fit, to work together.
Yeah.
In particular on these bigger projects, but we do that for every new client. I have a Zoom culture fit interview with anyone that comes into the business in terms of from an interview perspective. I do a quarterly one-on-one with all of our team. We have weekly 20s where, the leading hands are checking in with the guys, but I sit down with everyone one-on-one once a quarter, understand, what some things that they're proud of, what's brought them joy, is that what things are causing them frustration, stress, anxiety, depression, sleeplessness, what are some of the goals that they're working on, and how can we support them in achieving those goals. We give anyone that joins the business their new starter pack. Now, that new starter pack also includes a copy of Barefoot Investor, which helps a lot of the guys who may not have set up superannuation accounts, or they may have 5 or 6 of them, or they don't have a budget, or they're not saving. It really is a step-by-step guide. I have gone through the Barefoot Investor steps myself, so I'm very honest with them about how that's been helpful with me. We roll out our winter packs. We're just about to roll out our summer packs, which we really love doing. We've partnered with Mates in Construction, so every single person on our team has done general awareness training around suicide. And then we have connectors. For every 3 people in the business, we have 1 connector who is trained in terms of being able to assist someone if they are struggling, so they can connect them with Mates in Construction. We do birthday cakes on birthdays. We have difficult conversations early. We have employee assistance programs. And this is one thing that's not necessarily going to improve your culture, but it's something that we do. Our social events, I do not revolve around drinking. So if the guys want to go out and have a drink, obviously, I say go for it. But I don't actively host anything that promotes or is around drinking, only because, some of the guys are actively sober or they're trying to be sober. So when I'm talking to them about goals and they're saying to me, I want to cut down on drinking, I'm not then going to go, hey, let's all catch up at the pub.
Culture is more than beers and barbecues. And I think the lesson from this is that this actually takes effort, and it takes thought and proactiveness and commitment, because that's people, and that's what it's about. So I love that. The 20s, you just mentioned those. Can you just talk us through a little bit about what that is?
For sure. So when we started doing that, 20s, because it's based on the fact that it should take 20 minutes. So when we first started doing them, they took maybe an hour and a half.
Yeah, I hear you.
But that gets better and better, right? Because the team become more comfortable, and more comfortable. When you first asked a lot of the guys on site in particular, and I say guys because our team on site are male. We just don't have a female carpenter on site yet. When you first say to them things like, what's a win or what's something you're proud of, they really struggled at first to say, I'm proud of this or I'm proud of that. Now, that's not to say that it's perfect now, but they're a lot more comfortable in identifying things they're proud in. It's understanding what are some challenges or obstacles that they're looking to improve, and then what are some goals that they're working on, big or small. Yep. So if it's a big goal, it can be little increments in terms of what you're doing to get to that big goal, or it could be a small goal between, this is something I can achieve, in a week or a few weeks.
Yeah. And so the 20 is basically a weekly 20-minute coaching session you have with each team member. And the thing is, nothing says you care like spending time. And so this is about actually dedicating some time to each team member so they feel like they're important, because they are, because you're spending some time with them. So I find that's a good strategy to really connect in. So what would you say, Emma, this is an important question, what would you say to other business owners who feel like they're too busy, with this culture stuff? They kind of know it's important, but I'm too busy to deal with that.
First of all, I'd say I hear you, right? I absolutely hear you. When you're doing the role of every single person, you often or regularly feel like, I do not have the capacity to add a single other thing on my plate. I wish I could, but I can't. But what I would say to people who feel like they're too busy to improve culture is that if you have one or more people working for you, you already have a culture, right? You already have a company culture. It's just about what kind. And the amazing thing about culture is it doesn't actually take a lot of time, and it doesn't cost. You can do it without any spend, right? It is lovely to be able to do the things like the summer packs, the winter packs, all that stuff. But it can be done, a culture improvement, with minimal to no spend. So you can be doing things like, if it's been a really hot day, messaging the guys in the morning, hey guys, I know it's really hot today. Please make sure you're looking out for yourselves. Some pointers, some tricks in terms of how to keep safe during summer. You can do things like, if they've been working all day in the rain, in the group chat, guys, I know it's been shocking weather to be in today. No doubt everyone's going home with wet boots. Just so you know, I know it's not easy, and it never goes unappreciated or unnoticed. Thanks a lot. If someone is exited from the business, notify the team and say, guys, just letting you know, this person's finished up with us. As you know, in the business, we don't gossip. If you have any questions regarding this, please come and have a chat with me. If you're going out to site, I've never seen one of the guys not grateful for taking out a ton of Powerades, and some cheese and bacon rolls from Baker's Delight.
Good old cheese and bacon roll.
Pro tip, if you take enough for your client and their foreman, and then all the sparkies on site, and then all the plumbers.
You're good. You're very good.
You take enough for everyone on site. Actually, one of the boys said to me recently, they were like, your voice is like a beacon when we hear you come on site, because we know you've got the goods. Yeah.
Yeah. That's smart. It's fun too, right? It's actually,
absolutely.
It gives you joy.
Yeah. But I would say that a small change that you can make that's not going to cost you anything, but is going to compound in your business in a way that you can't imagine, is check in with your team before you check your emails. That's it. That's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah. Check in with your team before you check your emails.
Yeah.
And there's something very powerful under that. And it's this. The reason most of us got into business and we've managed to grow a business is because we're very task focused. We're good at getting shit done. But that's not the thing that's going to take you to a very successful business that doesn't rely on you, because that's about being people focused, because it's the team's job to get the tasks done. So you have to switch from that real task focus to the people focus. And I love what you've said. Pretty much being better at culture can start by changing your attitude as a leader and owner, and just recognizing the importance of it. Even if you just do that, you'll start to see a lot of gains in this area, because it's about awareness and focus. So that's gold. I love that. Now, we've touched on this and we've talked about how to build culture. Obviously, the most powerful culture tool is getting the right people in the first instance, because it's just the raw material we've got to work with. So I'd really love to dig into what you've learned there. First thing I'd like to understand, Emma, is what are you actually looking for when you hire someone?
So when I recruit for our team, I'm predominantly looking for 4 things. The first thing I'm looking for is this a good person to work next to for 8 hours in the sun? Do they take accountability, or do they shift blame? Do they improve the lives of others? And do they know who they are and what's important to them? And if they don't know who they are, and they've been working 60 hours a week in a toxic company, and they've only just come up for air, which is the case for a lot of guys, that they are willing to invest in their own growth in taking the time to understanding who they are and what's important to them. Because one thing I will say is I ask in every interview, what are your top 3 values? Now, this is not something that's typically asked in majority of construction. So I do usually say, things like trust, honesty, and we talk through a list of values. And I say, look, and if some of those are yours, that's fine. Please tell me those 3 are yours. You don't have to come up with new ones, but it's introducing that concept of values really early in the conversation. And again, like I said, seeing if those personal values align with your company values.
Yeah, I love that. Something we found as a game changer for our business and obviously the people we help is if you actually mention values in job ads, it attracts a whole different class of citizen. It's quite incredible. So yeah, I love that. How do you know if someone is the right fit for the business before they start working with you? Because this is a challenge. People are like, well, I don't do a lot of hiring, and they're telling me what I want to hear, or I'm looking for what I want to see. But how do you actually know?
We've learned this the hard way for many, many years. Someone can, talk the talk, but until they're actually on site from a skills perspective, unless you're doing, some technical based practical skills, we have a 3-stage interview or hiring process that we do with every single person. The first one is they complete an online form, which is a self-skills assessment. That is, one, because we want to see what they can do, but two, it's also important to see that this person is self-aware in terms of where they can grow, where they can improve, and that they have a desire to grow and improve. Even if they're an MVP, in their current company, that they want to continue to grow and improve. So that online self-skills assessment. The second thing, like I discussed, is that culture fit Zoom call with me. And as we continue to grow, it'll be with someone else as well. So that's just, again, discussing very openly and transparently around what you will get with Wardle Construction, what are the great things about us, what are the key selling points, but also what are not the great things about us. What don't we do well at the moment? What are we working to improve? So self-skills assessment, Zoom culture fit meeting with myself, and then a face-to-face interview with our ops manager and our other director. And that's talking through what day-to-day looks like. So it's really, the interview process is about seeing that we're the right fit for them and they're the right fit for us.
Yeah, and it's a sales process too, isn't it? Because good people have options. And I think this is something that a lot of people would benefit from is you have to sell yourself as a business. You have to be the employer of choice because people do have options. And so if you have a very professional approach to how you hire, most people in the construction area don't have a professional experience when they're hired. Even with large companies, often it's quite brutal, it's quite cold, and it's very transactional.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think that I think you guys are doing that really well, and it's massively important because then you get people lining up to work with you, and they say yes when you make the job offer rather than I'll think about it, which is the worst thing when you've got someone who's reasonable and they're thinking about it because they're probably not going to come on board.
Yeah.
So I think that's huge.
And there's two things. If you want 10s in your team, you have to hire 10s, right? So you have to make that interview process as transparent as possible. Tell people what the next step looks like. Tell people how long that's going to take. Again, be transparent with them around, what you don't do well, but what you're amazing at, so they can decide if that's what they're looking for. And the other thing that I say this very regularly, is please don't ghost candidates. If they've applied and they're not the right fit, you would be surprised how much of an impact it makes in terms of from your company perspective if you actually just go back and let people know. You can bulk do it and seek, just send people an email. I've had a number of people tell me, thank you so much for at least letting me know.
Yeah.
So it's a huge thing to do because it's the right thing to do.
That's a values question, isn't it? Because you're doing the right thing when people aren't really looking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you never know who those people will talk to as well. But that's not the reason to do it. It's just because it's the right thing to do. Now, have you ever regretted a hire, Emma?
Yes. Yes.
What did you learn from that?
Absolutely. And that's not to say that won't happen again, right?
It will, unfortunately. It will. Yeah.
It will.
Let's give us the juicy, retract all names, but give us the juicy details.
No names. I would say the one thing where you're typically going to make a wrong hire is when you're recruiting when you're desperate, right? Is when you're recruiting when you're desperate, that's when you skip steps. The second thing I will say is get comfortable in interviewing. And that I know that sounds easier said than done, but have a conversation with the person that you're talking to. Have a structured questionnaire. Whenever I do my culture fit meetings, I would have done maybe 200 of these or more, but I still use that form to guide me through to make sure nothing's missed. And if something feels off or something doesn't feel right, just keep asking. Just keep asking till you get the answer that satisfies what doesn't feel quite right. This is a person. Keep chatting with them. Keep finding out. Because if something's not right, it will usually show up later once it's a problem for you and your team. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing that I would say that we've learned from is do not deviate from your hiring process. So every single time, have a job description, have a job ad written, get together your interview questions, conduct your reference checks, and do it in a timely manner. So you will have those people where you're like, we need them tomorrow. We've hit the jackpot, which, to be fair, is actually how I feel about our team. But time kills deals, and time kills deals in recruitment just as it does sales. So that's not to say rush your recruitment process. Go through every process, but be timely about it and be very clear in your communication and keeping that candidate up to date in the same way that you would want them to keep you up to date if they're on one of your projects. So display the communication that you would want from them.
Yeah, I love the follow the process thing. And I often think about airline pilots. Very important, that you don't wing the takeoff checklist. You wouldn't just make it up just because you've flown 500 times before. And it's the same with hiring. Do not change what works just because you think you know it. You've got to go through every step because that's how you maintain quality. And, hiring in your business is like taking off in an aircraft. It's the most important thing you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing happens if you don't get that right. So I think that's a really good one. In terms of bench strength, that's something that you've talked about, which I like. So what does bench strength mean to you and why is it important?
So bench strength is kind of like a sporting analogy in that teams that win championships are not the ones that have one or two superstars, right? They are the teams that have an entire squad, regardless of their position, that stay motivated, they're ready to jump in, they're ready to perform, they're ready to keep momentum. So it's about building that pipeline of your current team and identifying who are the future leaders, where are people going, who has that desire to grow. And if they don't have the desire to grow up, but they have the desire to do other things, how can you keep them motivated and driven so that they are ready to step up as needed? And this does three things. Doing that bench strength planning does three really important things in your business. It builds confidence, it supports growth, and again, it protects your culture. Because what's better than promoting someone within who has been trained, who has been kind of that have put the steps in to be promoted into the next role, because you continue to protect the culture. Now, that's not to say promote someone who's not the right fit for the role, because it's easier, right? Sometimes you think, we'll just get that person to do it because we don't want to go into the unknown. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying if you start to put building these blocks around building that bench strength so that you have an entire squad of superstars, not just, 2 or 3 MVPs.
We've all had that experience where we've got a single point of failure, one person we rely on for everything, and projects fall over if we don't have them. That's not the way to run a successful business. That's a way for them to basically hold you hostage, which is not what you want, and it just makes it very stressful for you as well. Emma, there's a big challenge that business owners face, and I'd love to get your take on this, and it's how early do I hire? And, having sort of extra hands, extra capacity sitting around versus how long do I wait to make sure the work's there and I run the risk of being stretched too thin. So how have you walked that line?
I've come to the realization that I'll continue to walk that line. I actually thought that you'd get to a point where you're like, that no longer becomes an issue. Turns out that never goes away. Yeah, surprise, that's going to be with you forever. So once you accept that, so we have this kind of the way we talk in our business is, they say always be marketing. We say always be recruiting. So we have a recruitment philosophy within our business, whether it does not matter whether we are hiring because we need to, we are consistently recruiting. Now, this may be a referral into the business. We always have an ad up on Seek in terms of people coming to the business. Like I said, it could be a referral, it could be someone from another site saying, hey, I saw you guys, are you interviewing? We are always interviewing. We are always recruiting. As a side note to that, though, we are always very transparent with anyone that we speak to, that when we are recruiting, it's for long-term fit. It's for culture fit. We want people who want to grow within the business, have that beautiful work-life balance, for the next 5, 7, 10 years. So we don't hire reactively. So I'm very honest in saying to people, hey, I'd love the opportunity to tell you a little bit about Mortal Construction, tell you the things that we do really well, tell you the things that we don't do so well, but we're working on improving, and understand if we're going to be the right fit for you and you're going to be the right fit for us, so that once we are ready to bring someone new in the business, we've already developed that relationship and understand if that culture fits there. And then I always ask their permission and say, does that work for you? I've never had someone say no, which is fine. That might come in future. But I think it's about building that bench of people who you've developed that relationship with, already identified that they're a good fit. And so when that does crop up, you can call upon those people and kind of say, hey, look, I know we spoke a while ago, was wondering if you'd like to come on board. The other thing that we do is we don't hire more than one person a month unless absolutely necessary. Reason for that being is we like to induct people into the business really well, give them the opportunity to be new, and then kind of hand the baton onto the next new person as such. Even if we filled a role and then another person happens to come through the mix who is suitable for that role, whether it be an office role, I set myself a KPI to do 3 phone screens a week, regardless of what that position is. So quite often you may get a candidate or an applicant on, say, LinkedIn or Seek or through your emails. Once you've filled a role, I will still jump on the phone and say to them, hey, we've just filled that role, but our intention is that this team's going to continue to grow. Are you open to having a conversation, see what that looks like so we can keep in touch for future? And more often than not, they'll say, yeah, I'd love that.
In a way, you're creating a wait list for employees, which is, I've never really heard anyone talk about that. I quite like that, actually. And so it almost creates a bit of exclusivity, a little bit of FOMO, because they're like, wow, this is interesting. I've never sort of experienced anything like that. So, yeah, I might steal that. I like that.
Absolutely. Go for it.
So we've touched on some of this, but I'd love to get your take on anything we may have missed. What do you do in terms of investing in your team that you see other businesses not doing?
To be honest, this is probably an awful answer, but I don't know what other businesses are doing. I probably should be aware of it. Now that you've asked me, I'm going to make an effort to find out. But in terms of the outcome or what that results in, the way that we do things in the business, and I suppose how that manifests. I was having a think around company culture, and it reminded me, I had this saved as my screensaver for some time on my phone when we did some of our general awareness training around suicide and suicide awareness, because every second day an Australian construction worker takes their life. Right, so this is why it's so critical. But in terms of what we do differently and then what the outcome is of that, one of the wives of a member of our team actually messaged us and said, you guys are the best. Thank you for taking such good care of my partner and his workmates. I'm not sure if you guys have any idea how all the support, validation, and respect you guys give to them affects their family. I'm just glad to say that my partner works in the best construction company in Australia, which is very kind. I'm sure you guys will grow more and more, and being like this, I'm excited to see you continue to grow. Thank you. Guys like you are the ones who really make a difference in people's lives.
Magic.
That's the feedback that I often get, is that it is different to be here, but I can't tell you specifically. I just know that we do these things and that works.
And having raving fans like that is very powerful. You're doing it right when you get that kind of feedback, which is awesome.
Yeah, that meant a lot.
It does, doesn't it? Because you put a lot of, I understand, obviously as a business owner too, how much it means that people are having a good experience.
Yeah.
My experience is that not all business owners have that passion. That's not a judgment I'm making. It's just an observation. And the ones who do have that passion, funnily enough, they have better cultures, better teams, and their experience of business is better.
Yeah.
That's why we're having this conversation, I guess. So.
And look, a lot of people have that passion, right? But it's kind of been put in the garage collecting dust because they're trying to keep their head above water.
That's very true.
So
very true.
I get that as well. It's like, We'll put that together later. I've just got to do this first.
And later is difficult because it just keeps getting swamped by the next issue you're dealing with. So hopefully today this will help. If you're that person, it'll just give you a little window to actually jump in and make some of these changes. And it is hard, making change is hard, but it's harder not to make change in the long run. That's the thing. So one thing that is awesome for team is brightness of future. And Phil and I have talked about that a lot on the pod as well. How do you think about and create brightness of future for the people in your teams?
The expression brightness of future is something that I've only more recently become familiar with as an expression. So I was looking into this more and more, and very, very similarly to everything that we do in our company, everything that we express in our company, there's some things that we do really well now, and that's create a sense of belonging for our team. You can feel our values in every single thing that we do, from recruitment, recognition, decision-making, our quarterly one-on-ones. Though there are things that we do not currently do perfectly, that we are absolutely as a focus for us on improving. So there's 3 things that are a key focus for us, and increasing that brightness of future is more consistent training. So giving more people the opportunity for that training, implementing a clearer or more defined mentoring system amongst the team, and more clearly defined career roadmaps for every single position within the business. And that talks about average timelines. It talks about what those steps are, so that every individual in the business knows, okay, here's what's next for me, and this is how Wardle Construction is going to help me get it. We're not doing everything perfectly, but those are the things that are important to us in terms of training, mentoring, career road paths, and having that sense of belonging within the team.
I think that's super important, because when they don't have a sense of runway or what the next steps might be for them, and the good people want this, it's even more important for the good people than perhaps the people who are a little bit more on the average side in terms of their performance. The good people want and deserve to know what's next. And let's be honest, for some people, we may not be able to provide everything. And perhaps our job is to set them up for the next step. That might be somewhere else. And that's hard to say as a business owner. We don't want to think about that. But the thing is, those people might come back to us in another form, and they're going to do it anyway. So we might as well make it a great experience for them. But I think that is massive for certainly giving them a better experience and improving the time they stay with us, which is really valuable, because replacing people is incredibly costly. And then there's the potential for referrals and comebacks down the track. So I think it's definitely something to spend some time on. So, Emma, I've got maybe 2 questions I want to just get in before we finish up, because this has been fun. What advice would you give to someone who is trying really hard but constantly seems to be hiring because they're getting bad apples, or people are leaving, and they've got to that place, which I've heard many times, is there's just no good people out there?
You're the problem. It's you. No.
Yep, that's pretty much it. We're done.
No.
With love.
The end. On that note.
Yeah.
No, I would say, if you're seeing a consistency and a negative result, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's likely a duck. So typically, if there are issues around recruitment, you'll often hear there's no one in the market. You'll often hear, it's a candidate-rich market at the moment. You will hear things like this. A mentor of ours once explained to me, before you point fingers at someone, look at the 3 fingers pointing back at you. So absolutely, you may have made a bad hire. They may have not stood up to what's important to you. But it is your duty as a business owner to firstly look at what you could have done better. Do you have a recruitment system in place? What is your culture, one that 10s want to be a part of? If it's not, that's okay. You're not going to, action beats perfection. You are not going to create an incredible culture overnight. But again, eat the elephant one mouthful at a time and be really, really transparent with people in the interview process that this isn't perfect. This is something you're working on. This is something that's important to you. Challenge people. If they're not buying into your values, if they're not showing that they want to grow with you as a business, they're not going to grow with you as a business. If they don't care about these things, they're not going to care on site. So get comfortable interviewing, get comfortable pushing back, and start creating that culture that winners want to be a part of, because winners also want to work with winners, right?
Oh, yes. That's a whole nother topic. I mean, you just nothing rots the barrel like a bad apple. That's for sure. I think you're right that one of the most powerful business development tools is the mirror. You can hold it up and you can say, hey, that's the opportunity. That's also the problem. So it's a two-sided thing there. And I can tell you, if you are having those problems, it's not because the environment is the problem. It's the way you're interacting with it. And so it's just asking you to do some things differently, because there is always a way to solve this. Always. I've never seen a business that can't get on top of their team and have a great experience with it. So, Emma, is there anything else that we haven't covered off that we should have?
I reiterate this. I know as a business owner, when you are trying to do everything, one, you cannot do it without support. If you are trying to do accounts payable, accounts receivable, estimating, quoting, sales, inventory, if you're trying to do everything, there's not a single thing that you're doing well. So you must start bringing people into your team who do those things probably a lot better than what you do, and then that's going to give you the breathing room to start creating that culture that you want. It's your business. You can create whatever culture you want, but you cannot do it by yourself, and you cannot do it without support. And it can be done with little to no spend. It's just small moments of consistency.
Magic. Love it. I really appreciate your time, Emma. You guys have done it. You and Adam done a great job. I respect the way you approach business. What's exciting is that business is rewarding you for that effort and that ethos that you're bringing to it, which is awesome. I love it when the good people are winning.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tony. And thank you so much to you guys. This is an unbelievable community to be a part of. And we are very, very grateful to be a part of PT. Thank you so much.
We're grateful that you're part of it as well. So it's all good. Great stuff. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Tony. Have a great day.
Congratulations on being part of a select group of savvy business owners who are taking their businesses to the next level. And to help you on your journey, don't forget to check out our show notes for a copy of our free book, The Profitable Tradie, and other valuable resources. Thanks for being a part of this special group, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Profitable Tradie podcast.